Well, Pastor, we're setting up our living room here.
It seems like we are,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Do you want this green pillow?
Nope, I don't.
Okay, I don't either. But anybody else want this green pillow while we're at it?
We're at home.
Maybe the seats could be a little more comfortable. And so, hi.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is so great. I love when we do things together.
I know.
Sunny gets a little bit stressed out when we do things together because sometimes I'm like the rogue, I'm the rebel. She's very organized about it. And as you can see, I'm like, am I sitting in the chair? And what is this sign?
You have
And
to
so
sit,
anyway, yes,
yeah.
thank you. I am going to sit.
Nice.
I just was getting ready. I was
Okay.
getting my shirt.
I have a bucket of props here that I'm going to go through as we talk.
I love it.
Yeah.
So anyway, good morning. Happy, as you said to our friends, happy 5th anniversary. This is incredible. It doesn't feel, I have been excited about this day. I've been waiting for this day actually for 5 years and 1 week. And so I'm so excited about it. Here's what I love is that this day isn't about us. A lot of times you come to a place like this and people kind of do the presentation and like it's all about the people who are up front. But what I love about Life Church is that it isn't about the people up front. It's about these guys and about their friends. And so I'm so excited to get to go down memory lane with so many of these people and all of the different things that have happened. And the thing that's interesting about here is a lot of times when you grow really fast, there are people that think you've always been big. And so there's a lot of people like you came and there was already like thousands of people who come to church here. And yet there are some people who they got here when this place, like us, who got here when this place was really at its genesis, at its beginnings. And what's crazy is we've been a part of big churches, but I've never been a part of a church that has grown so quickly. And so I think what I really want people to understand in this time, and what I want you guys to understand, is that it was not that long ago that God really started to do what he's doing. And what's crazy is that this almost didn't happen. And it's not because we almost chose not to come, although you'll hear that there's a big decision that went into this. Anytime you move your family, obviously, across the country. But when I talk about like this almost didn't happen, like this almost didn't happen because we almost lost you. And this is literally, I don't think I've ever heard you tell this story in public, so tell them.
I've never told this story in public and the reason we thought of it is we were sitting with Pastor Jonathan, our creative pastor, and we were talking about this Sunday and what we would talk about. And we talked about, well, let's talk from the beginning when we were in the first building, and you'll see in the lobby as you walk out these doors and this way, we've put up a wall, a timeline, and it's taken us a lot of pushing to be able to even go, let's put something up about it, because we're like, let's just run and keep up with God, because that's been our mantra, keep up with God. But when we sat down and started talking about how it began, we realized, we almost didn't get here. This is how it started. We got a call to come to Green Bay and take Life Church. The pastor was going to start a different church, a new church, and so we got a call to come and to take Life Church, and it was a church of about 168 people, we knew exactly, 168
Could you be a little
people
less vague?
with
About 100,
the bird in the ceiling. We had 168 people.
Yeah.
And we were at a growing church that we were campus pastors in San Diego. And I told Sean no. He said no 2 or 3 times. And I said, very, very firmly no. And so I was like, in fact, I'm going parasailing in LA next week. So I get in the car with two friends who were
And by parasailing, you mean parasailing.
Parasailing.
Like when you're up in the air behind the boat. And for those of you who...
I have northern speech,
Yes,
sorry.
okay,
or,
sorry.
or ranch speech.
Yeah.
So we're headed to LA in the car, and there's two people in the front, I'm in the back, and I'm actually holding my iPad like this between my legs, or like with my leg folded in the back seat. And I said something funny, of course. And the girl driving, who was not old enough, she was probably 22, and I shouldn't have trusted her. Not because she was 22, but because I knew her. And instead, I went ahead and got in the car anyway, and I didn't want to drive. So we're going 65 on the LA freeway, and next thing I know, we rear end a white utility van that is still stopped.
Yeah.
And we run right into the back of it. And immediately, my iPad bends almost in the shape of a banana. It hits me between like the hip and the knee, holds it in. I hit the front of the seat. I can't breathe, but I'm trying to tell her, put on your hazards so that no one hits us from behind, because we'd already crushed ourselves in the front. The ambulance got there and I knew I couldn't breathe, but I was just trying to breathe. And the ambulance started to get the two girls out of the front and me, and then they stopped when they got to me, and they took my vitals, and they said, we can't take them to a regular hospital. Take the two in the front to the regular closed hospital. Take the back seat passenger to the trauma center. And so they take me in a separate ambulance to the trauma center. They rush me in like you see on like all these hospital shows, like screaming, and somebody's riding the cart like really fast. Not like, oh, we can see if we can get her in. They run me in. They take an immediate scan. I have a lady come over who is a chaplain who prays for me, and the doctors are frantically running around. They come back and they say, ma'am, where is your family? Do you have family? I said, my husband. I'm trying to say all this. They say, we need to take you in. You have, you're bleeding internally, or we see free fluid in there. We need to take you in for an emergency surgery. I gave the okay, but they said, we would like to talk to your husband first. They came back and said, we need to take you now. We need to talk to your husband. They
did call me, and a lady asked, are you Sean Hennessy? Are you related to Sonny Hennessy? And how fast can you get to LA? Like, you need to be here like right now, which is terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying. And I, this whole time, am still not feeling great, but I'm like, you know, what are they're going to take me in, they're going to do surgery. I hear them talking, and I hear the doctor say, send the chaplain back to her. The chaplain comes back and begins to read me my last rites.
Yeah.
And the reason they wanted to get a hold of Sean is they didn't think I'd make it through surgery. From the scans, it looked like I wouldn't make it. And so at that moment, I thought, I'm really not going to make it. Now, what I had been looking at on my iPad was homes in Green Bay. I had finally decided to consider Green Bay.
The traffic put you over the top, didn't it?
Yeah,
you thought, if I'm going to
it.
die in traffic, I'll move to. I can deal with the winter if I don't
yes,
have
if
to
I don't
die
have to
in
run
traffic.
into yeah. But I was looking before we ran
That's
into
true.
it. But yes,
I know.
that is true.
I was just
Very
trying
bad
to break
traffic.
the ice.
The ice. So bad.
Hashtag dad jokes.
So, hashtag yes. Hashtag I'm about dead.
Yeah.
And he comes in, and he does really come in about as matter of fact as I was. Like, what's going on? Like, all she has is like a scratch there. And so he gets there, and they say, we're going to take her back for one more scan. They come back, they're like, ma'am, everything we saw the first time is gone. Mm-hmm. Now, he, on the way to the hospital, texted everybody we knew, pray, I'm headed to LA, Sonny's in a trauma center. They took the second scan right before they were going to take me in, which I don't know why they decided to do that, and there was nothing wrong. And they had me get up and walk out into the car and get into the vehicle and head home. It was that quick.
I love it. Maybe in all the chaos, Jesus saw what you were looking at on your iPad.
Yeah.
He said, oh, well, she saw on Realtor.com. So let's heal her.
Yeah. So it was like, are we really going to go to Green Bay? And that was, I thought either Satan's trying to kill me, and we're not supposed to go, or I just need to keep praying on this. So we did come. We came what we were told was the coldest winter, although I think we're at 5 years and now it's going to be the coldest winter
I feel
again.
like every winter people say that though. They say like we're contemplating or something. They go, just so you know, this is the coldest winter in the history of
we were
Wisconsin.
told that, and we're like, they're just saying that, and it was awful.
It was bad.
5 years ago. We would drive and try to not slide off the road to our new little church with hardly any people. Let's talk about some of the struggle.
You'd have Aubrey pray every time we'd drive down that street. You'd say, Aubrey, pray that someone comes to church today.
Yes.
like anyone. We don't want to be the only people here. And so there was this really intense spiritual warfare from the time we got here. Because when you get into a car wreck like that, it's easy to kind of pass that off like it's nothing. But sometimes you are under attack. Sometimes the enemy is trying to keep you from your destiny. And there has been significant spiritual attack, not just for us, but for many people here since we got here because of what it is that God, I think, is trying to do through all of us here in the 9-2. Everything from crazy noises in our house to loud bangings to one night literally thinking that there was someone in my home and pulling the most guy thing to do, getting my gun out of my gun safe, which we have a license for, by the way.
And putting a gun in my hand and saying, if anybody walks up these stairs except than me, shoot.
Don't ask a question. So we knew that there was something happening in our house. There were banging, the doors would bang. I knew that there was something, and I'm not trying to creep you out, but there was this spiritual warfare that was happening to the point where I went through and prayed over the house and anointed my house with oil. And the way that I knew how to do that was I Googled it. I Googled...
We were pastors, but we're like, does that really work?
I didn't have me.
We tried it.
I didn't have me to text, so I get those texts though. So I did Google, how do you pray over your house? And so what happened, I think, is in the midst of us coming here, there was just this. I think an indifference for the first couple months. We did the Growth Track series.
We shrunk. We did Growth Track, not because Growth Track's bad, but we did 4 weeks in Sunday morning, and it was about double the length every week. And we had lost about 40 people. We got smaller.
Anytime that there's a change, I think that's a natural off-ramp for people. So there were people, I think, that were kind of contemplating. And so they went anyway. And then when we finished the Growth Track series and it was cold, the coldest, obviously, winter in the history of Earth, as people told us. And I hadn't seen the sun in a month. And I would get these texts from people back in San Diego, like Pastor Dallas and Pastor DJ. They would text me pictures of palm trees. And I was depressed, to be completely honest. I was totally depressed.
And we had, get this, you know how many kids we have now? We had 0 babies in the nursery.
None.
We had a nursery on the top floor. Some of you remember this.
Yeah.
There was a nursery right on the main level.
With the half door.
With the half door, because the rest of the kids were in the basement. That's always a good sell for people.
And when we say the rest of the kids, that was our kids and a few other kids.
Yeah,
but we had a slide.
We had a slide in the wall,
sure.
and we're going to show the slide in the wall.
I went down it a number of times.
It was great. You went right down that yellow tube, and you ended up in the basement. And parents tried it, and there was a sharp turn.
It was a pretty sharp turn.
It was a sharp turn.
You smash your knees. And so probably about the end of February in 2013, I was praying that God would deliver me, and was definitely doubting the decision that we made. And I don't know where I found it, but I read this blog that was Lessons I Learned from John Piper. And some guy wrote a blog about when this pastor named John Piper, who's relatively famous, went to Minneapolis to pastor his church. The same things were happening. The church wasn't growing. He was questioning it. He kind of put his name out there to some other churches. And he said that the Holy Spirit convicted him and said that a pastor who's willing to leave his church is like a husband with wandering eyes, that you need to marry your city. And so that Sunday, I got up on our little portable stage, by the way, because the room that we had that sat 200 people was way too big. And so we put portable staging out front. We put pool stairs, by the way, that a friend donated.
We painted them black.
Spray painted our pool stairs black, and we put these really kind of cool. Our friend Tyler, he's still here. He made these really cool,
behind those lights.
These wood slats that are behind the lights. He
First
made
stage
those,
design.
Yeah, to kind of make the stage look like something that people would want to come to. And so we got up that Sunday, and I committed that I would give the next 20 years of my life to Life Church in Green Bay, that I would not look at another church, that I would not entertain another offer.
It does sound like marriage.
It does.
You
It
don't
is
look
a
at other
marriage. It
women.
is. I don't look at other
Yes.
women, and I don't look at other churches. So
Yes.
that's why I should have a T-shirt made and sell it on Facebook.
So creepy.
Like the Canadian.
I'm a pastor.
Yeah, I'm a pastor, and I don't look at other women, and I don't look at other churches.
Right, correct. I like it.
I feel like that should be the rule for all men anyway. But so anyway, then I had a dream, and in my dream, our church had grown significantly. It was thousands of people, and people began to hear about it. And a church from Orange County in my dream called me, and they were thousands of people, and they called me and they asked me if I would take the church, and that I could bring the whole staff with me, which, by the way, back then, it was just me and Pastor Lori, because Sonny was a substitute dance teacher at Barb's School of Dance and volunteered at the church. And I woke up from that dream, and I felt like God said to me, that wasn't a dream, that was a warning. That's going to happen. And I don't ever want you to leave Green Bay, which incidentally, it has happened. The church has grown to thousands of people, and we have
2 churches in Orange County have called to hire in the past years, but
thousands of people. And we go, are you kidding? My wife almost died in California. Why would we? No, that's not why. But we go, this is our dirt. This is our soil. And so we started to, even when we were little, began to act like a big church. Because sometimes you've got to walk in your blessing before your blessings come. Sometimes you've got to walk in the calling that God's got on your life and step into the destiny for your life. Like, you know that God's called you to do something, and sometimes you got to start acting like that. Like, if God called you to be a teacher, you need to start taking the steps that God's like that are before you to become a teacher. You're not just going to miraculously wake up and become a teacher one day.
Well, and I think that this is the time of year that you can really get into a funk. I mean, the holidays are over, and my mother-in-law looked at me and said, isn't it just a weird feeling the minute Christmas is over? And I was like, people feel that, but I'm just not going to live in that, and she's not going to live in that. None of us are going to choose to live in that. But then in the cold areas, the cold parts of the world, it does get hard. And you go, so when you're going through something and it's that season in life or that season of the year that it's just hard anyway, it makes it super hard.
Yeah.
And so we went from going, woe is me, this is hard, this is cold, nobody likes us, everybody wants to leave our church and not be at our church.
We want to go eat worms and die.
We want to, yeah. So we decided, let's think big. So we did a glow-in-the-dark Easter egg hunt inside.
Dope.
That was awesome. We knew we could fit everybody in our little auditorium, so we did glow-in-the-dark Easter eggs.
With 600 people show up at an Easter egg hunt,
I think over the course of it.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It could have been 200 and we would have felt like it was 600.
I could be lying
You
right
could
now.
be lying. It's possible.
Put that on the bottom of the shirt. I don't look at other women. I don't look at other churches, ... But sometimes I lie.
Yeah. Just about numbers, right?
Yeah, I didn't.
I think it was maybe 200 or 300. It just felt like all of Green Bay came. But here's the great part: we have this auditorium full. The little staff, we look out the door, and our parking lot is filled up, and there's cars parked down.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Southbridge. Southbridge Road.
Southbridge.
Yes, they're parked. They're lined up down Southbridge, and we thought basically we saw hope.
Yeah.
We thought maybe people will come. And then so we had already planned to do 3 Easter services. We did 3 Easter services, and it was disappointing because no service was even close to full.
Not one.
It was, like last. Yeah. So if you're that person who's like, I don't really like a crowd and I didn't enjoy sitting in overflow, you would have been really happy. Everybody laid down like there was a lazy boy next to them. So that was pretty disappointing. But then we did see the hope with the egg hunt. We did start to do things like Jump VBS, and we had lots of kids. We did a family movie night where we put Pastor Lori and the team the team was Pastor Lori, put the screen up, and Steve, and we had something where people had to see us doing a movie outside because they had to drive by. And so we did that. Also, Pastor Jonathan and Ginny, our creative pastor, and Ginny, our coffee lady, I've got to do a demonstration, so if you can talk.
Yeah, she was the coffee pot lady, and Pastor Jonathan and Ginny, who obviously are from Green Bay, that was the beginnings of the Exchange Coffee House, right there. We should never get rid of that.
One pot.
But we should wash it at some point. Oh yeah, and so Sunny would go and she would fill that up. That it was orange. This is a reproduction. She would fill up an orange Gatorade cooler down in the basement in the mop room, because we know that water boils out germs. And she would bring up the water. It wasn't dirty water. She'd bring up the water and she would make the coffee. And Ginny would make the coffee in this little thing.
The mop was a few inches away when I would put this under the spout. And then we had an elevator in that building because they were required to when they built it. And so I would fill this, but I would always wear higher heels than this. So it was normal to see a water trail from the mop sink to the elevator and upstairs. And this is how I would walk. Like this.
That is awesome.
What's most funny about that is that I was also greeting, so I was still a greeter, so I would greet. Some people are nodding. I would greet them as I'm coming up with this thing between my legs. Hi, welcome to Life Church. And then, so when Ginny came, she became the coffee pot. Well, we were doing coffee pots. We moved to the percolator, and we would go through one of these a Sunday. Now we go through hundreds of gallons, I think. That was the beginning of the coffee cart. So then what? We decided to build on, because when Jonathan and Ginny came, we started to grow.
Right.
And we started to get a rhythm, and we had a guest speaker.
We did. Well, we started to celebrate everything.
Yeah.
Because we have a friend who said that you have to, when you're a young church, you have to celebrate everything. You have to give people mile markers. You have to have people recognize and realize what's happening. Otherwise, you'll take things for granted. And so then we got into this series on who do you think you are, on the book of Ephesians, and it was on identity, on your spiritual identity. Boom, that's it.
That's the graphic.
And one of the things was you are adopted, where the Apostle Paul talks about we are adopted into God's family. And so I asked one friend of mine who was adopted if he would come and speak, and he said no. So we asked another friend. Luckily, I had two friends who were adopted. So I asked another friend of mine who we had been on staff together at Life Center in Tacoma, and his name was Dean Curry, and he came to speak at our little church, and they have thousands of people. And he so graciously came, wouldn't let us pay for his airline ticket. He wouldn't let me pay for his lunch. And he came to our church, and anybody who was here, you remember him, he had his pants, he did the tight peg 80s roll on his pants and had loafers, no socks, and Buddha beads. And he got up and talked about how amazing this church was, and asked us what our area code was. And somebody yelled out, the 920! And he began to prophesy in a non-weird way about what God was going to do within this city and within this church, and how we were going to change the 920. And I even tweeted this morning. In the 5 years that we've been here, I can't think of another moment or another person or church who has impacted us more than Life Center in Tacoma or Pastor Dean Curry, because that's where we got so much of our verbiage, was from Tacoma, where we were on staff, and we started to call ourselves Jesus people rather than Christians. We started to talk about we were on our Jesus journey. We kind of started almost inviting people not to come to church, which is kind of a shift.
We would say we're a church for anybody, but not everybody. And we should have been saying everybody come, because we are still trying to even have enough people to feel like a Sunday morning, 2 services. It was still rough.
But we really wanted to get the culture. We wanted to get this DNA, which so much of it was coming from my years with Pastor Buntain, Fulton Buntain, who pastored Life Center in Tacoma forever. And his words are all over this church, but more than anything, his fingerprints are on our lives and on this church. And so we really began to go all in, and we began to take chances. And sometimes in life, you've got to take a chance. You can either watch life go by, or you can go all in. You can get in the game. And so we started to do things that were a little bit crazy. I mean, we did the What's Your Story series. We wrote the What's Your Story book, interviewed some people, had billboards up around the city, things on the back of the buses. And that was the first really, we didn't have the money to do that.
No, but you went to the mayor, you went to Mayor Schmidt, and said, can I interview you? I hear that your family's maybe Christian. And he said, yes, my brother's a priest. And Sean asked him about his Jesus journey, and he's in the book.
Talked to Dr. Nikki, who was in there and is still here and is one of the great leaders here. And it was just a point being, that was such a shift here. And it's amazing the number of people who weren't even here when this happened. And so many things started to happen like in this really concentrated period of time that I think gave us this vision for what God was wanting to do here.
Yeah, we would love at this point, and we're going to stay seated because we want to applaud you. If you were with us in the first building, you may remember what's your story. You may remember just Jesus, who is Jesus. We wanted to point to Jesus. If you were with us in the first building, will you stand? You've been with us a while and gone through a lot.
Come
Yay,
on, man.
Yay, look it. Give them a hand. Yes. So you may not remember this because it may have just been the staff that was talking about building on, but we were going to build on like a whole 300 square feet.
Yeah,
that's all the room we would have had in the grass.
I mean, we had 40 parking spots.
We had 40, so we filled that lot because there were 40 spots. So we thought about building on, and then God rescued us just in time, and we got called about a building. So talk about the building that we got called about.
Well, actually, when we got here, we would drive by 41, and Sunny has this thing when she wants something, she'll do this, and we would drive by.
Like a baby.
Yeah, for sure. Probably let's leave that part out, second service, the baby thing.
Okay.
That's kind of, but we would drive by 41 and she would drive by the SC Grand and we would ask ourselves, why is there not a church in there? Like, why is this building empty? And we'd drive by, and every time we would drive by on the highway, Sonny would do this. And so what we did is we started going and sitting in the parking lot. And we just started claiming that building. And we started praying that God would give us that building. And I called the realtor, and they wanted $4.2 million for it, and I just laughed.
We had 200,000, maybe.
Did we seriously?
No, we probably could have borrowed that.
Oh, yeah. So I was like, I didn't even know we had money then. So anyway, it went back to the bank, and a realtor called me back and asked if we wanted to buy it, and we still didn't have any money, but we went and we looked at it, and the guy said, well, you can buy it for $1.6 million, which was insane. And so we went to the bank, Calumet County Bank. I went and sat in there. I put a dress shirt on and a jacket. Like, if you're going to go to the bank, you should look like you're a respectable adult and you can borrow money. And so I went to the bank, and we issued an offer. We had no money. We issued an offer, and the offer was accepted. And I came back to our building on Southbridge Road, and Pastor Lori, who used to answer the phone, Life Church, this is Lori.
Well, she was
didn't say
Family
Pastor
Life
Lori,
pastor, but
sure.
we
Yeah. And so she came in, and she said, Sean, there's a girl on the line. She said she went to Bible college with you. And so the girl, her name was Tony. Tony said, hey, I just had a question. Have you guys ever thought about having church in the former SC Grand? I just laughed. I said, I just came back from the bank. We literally just put an offer on it. And she said, oh, well, we wanted to buy the building and see if you wanted to lease it from us. And I said, I don't want to do that because I don't want to rent. I want to buy. She said, oh, well, can you come over to our office? It's 1 mile from your church. We'd like to talk to you, my brothers and I. So I drove over to their building and sat at S&S Steel in Lawrence. And they asked us if we would consider letting them loan us the money to buy a building. And it was literally that was the first look at God moment that I thought, I've entered an offer on a building that we need with money we don't have. And God had somebody who I knew from years ago call me that I didn't know lived there to offer me money that we could borrow from them because we were too young of a church to borrow money from the bank. And so he miraculously provided the money for us to buy that building. And so we started to renovate it.
We We caravanned over from Sunday service at our first building. We did a last baptism, which you had built the sign.
I made the sign with Isaiah with sandbags and vinyl letters from Menards.
In the first building. And you also had done the baptism tank, which was a feed tank that you...
From Tractor Supply Company. And it was a giant... I don't know what it was. It was a water thing that I took a Sawzall and cut the top off of it.
And at first it was crooked, and then you tried to fix it. It was a little sharp. I think Steve volunteered to come and soften the edges. I mean, we just did it up right there. But we did our last baptism. We loaded up, and we caravanned as a church over to the SC Grand, and we unloaded because we had been renovating. Most of the work was done on the second building, the SC Grand, by volunteers, majority. Like, you guys painted, you guys
great.
did the floors, you guys scraped up the old laminate wood and tore up carpet.
Down
walls.
cinder block walls
Yeah.
with sledgehammers. And then with that move, we looked like the Beverly Hillbillies. We
Yep.
literally did. With flatbed trailers and stuff was hanging off the sides and bungee cords. It
Yep.
was the best.
It was the best, and we had 1 week to get Sunday ready. And so we did our ribbon cutting. We asked Mayor Schmidt to come and cut the ribbon. He happily came. We had a red carpet. This is when we felt like, man, now maybe we're going to start doing it up right. We had a red carpet. We took pictures. We did an open house. We opened the Exchange Coffee House, which this was
That's the
first
logo.
logo. The look of this was the first logo. Opened that up. We had already done, in the first building, we had already done a Christmas event for girls, or women, we called it, and we packed in there. We thought, now we have space to do that. We'd already done a Christmas album where they recorded the Christmas album in a 6x6. It was like a jail cell down by the elevator in the basement.
It might have been in that mop room. No, it was
Might
right
have been
next to the
right
mop
next
room.
to the mop
It's the
room.
same
They recorded
size.
the first CD. So we get into the second building and we do things like record another CD, but in like an almost real studio. We launch online campus, and we had gone from 2 to 3 services within 6 months in that building.
Our attendance doubled the first week we were in there and never went back. It was
400 to
insane.
800 in one Sunday. And we thought, well, this is ribbon cutting Sunday, it'll go down. Went from 400 to 800 people, never went back.
Never.
Recorded another CD, online campus launched. We were so excited. There were about 80 people to 100 people, and it was growing. And we did our first Merry and Bright in that building and packed it out. We were like, what is happening? Like, the word pack and crowd and overflow. We were overflowing into the coffee house. And so we thought about building on again.
We did. I mean, we hired an architect and had all these meetings with this guy and with these contractors and tried to borrow money again to do that. And it's amazing the things that God has kept us from. And so we had all these renderings made where we were going to build out actually on both sides. And that I was trying to buy the houses right next to it so that we would have enough room that we wouldn't have to move. And then literally out of the blue, we just discovered that there was another possibility for another building.
Yeah. So talk about that.
Yeah, so I mean, we were at a conference. I mean, Pastor Jonathan and I went and looked at this building when we were trying to buy the SC Grand, thinking about the SC Grand, and a realtor came and showed this to us. They wanted $7.5 million for this building. And when the realtor showed it to Pastor Jonathan and I, he asked what we did, and we told him. He literally laughed in our face. I hope he's here, and said these words: "You guys will never be able to buy this building." Well, not for $7.5 million, but God knew that he was going to continue to bring the price of this down. And so we were at a thing in Seattle for pastors outside Seattle. Incidentally, is where we met our friend Bob Goff, and I got a phone call from another pastor that said they were wanting to buy this building and that it was going back to the bank, and he asked if we were okay with him buying this building and if we'd pray for him. And they had certain things that needed to happen, and I said I would. And then he called me back just probably a week later and said that their offer didn't go through, and literally.
And he was interested in our building then.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
So then the conversation switched, and.
Yeah, so then I called the bank and began these conversations with the bank, and we had like 48 hours. They were like, somebody else has come in and they've made an offer. It hasn't been accepted yet, but if you'll outbid them, then you can have the building. But he wouldn't tell me what their bid was. And so I just, in good faith, I just said, well, here's what I'm really comfortable offering for this building. I'll give you $1.75 million.
And they took it.
They took it because we outbid the other place unknowingly by $50,000, who incidentally then came back, approached me, and the people who couldn't buy this building bought our building. They not only did they pay us what we wanted for our building, they told us that we could be in that building rent-free until this building was renovated. Talk about look at God,
Yeah.
right?
Look
So
at
they
God.
put off themselves moving into the building. Yeah,
It is a look
It's
at God
okay,
moment.
like-
It's a look at God.
that saved us so much money and allowed us to be able to kind of build this building out. And then, of course, we learned that we couldn't have a church in here, which was awesome when the city
and we were
tells
asked,
you.
remember when the mayor of De Pere and some of the city council were like, and some of the people even in the city hall chambers, they looked at us like, you're definitely dumb pastors.
For
like,
sure.
You bought a building
Without knowing if you
without
could.
knowing. We'd done demo. You guys came in, you started to help us do demo, and then we found out we needed to be rezoned. And they did. They looked at us like, you stupid idiots. And we're like, we know, like, we're terrible. And we don't know why. Well, in the end, we go, well, we thought we're using the same broker as the pastor who first put the offer. Maybe he knows what he's doing, obviously not. And then we also thought, well, we had 48 hours to make a decision. And we thought if it's not a God thing, 1.75 will not be accepted.
We didn't have the money anyway, so
Yeah.
let's just be clear. The same people who loaned us the money on that building stepped up and loaned us the money on this building, which is why later we had to go and refi. And I wish we had more time that you.
Do you want to show that? Let's show the news video real quick.
Okay,
of that. Let's watch
okay.
this.
So we had to go to City Hall, and some of you were there, and we had to fight to be able to be in our own building. And
But we
hundreds,
didn't fight.
Yeah, hundreds of people showed up, and this was on the news.
To now make some moving plans.
After the De Pere City Council last night approved a zoning change allowing Life Church to move within a commercial development along Interstate 41. Local 5's Chris Schuler spoke with church officials eager to expand.
Life Church has over 1,500 members. Now it can move into a space it just bought, capable of housing this growing megachurch.
In an old Sportsman's Warehouse in De Pere, Life Church is about to create its future after a vote by the City Council Tuesday approving their rezoning request.
We wouldn't call it a fight that just happened. We used love and kindness, and it won. And it will always win.
The town of Lawrence Church bought this building within a retail district. Last month, the city's plan commission recommended denying the church's request to change zoning to allow it to move in, meaning the church and its members needed to plead their case Tuesday before the full city council to try and win approval.
It was just a room of kindness and love.
And for 3 hours, roughly 40 people.
It's welcoming, it's inviting, and it brings everybody.
Including some Packer players.
It's changing people's lives, whether you're old, whether you're young. If you come in that building, your life is going to be changed.
Spoke on behalf of the church and its impact on the community, urging the council to grant rezoning.
You can't put a price tag on a marriage that was broken and has been healed.
It made an impression on Alderman Scott Revere.
You see the hope and the spirit that these people have as a result of them being in our community. It's hard to discount them.
Who voted to approve rezoning, along with the majority of the council.
I think they made a good choice. I'm excited to have them there.
We didn't have to fight this. We just had to take this opportunity to share what Jesus is doing here.
And surrounding businesses like Walmart and Menards, they welcome the church as a new neighbor. Hennessy hopes the new Life Church will open on Easter. Chris Schuler, Local 5 News.
So we are going to post all of the news that we already did. It's on Facebook, all of the different news coverage, which also is a way some of you may have found out about Life Church and become a part of our family. And so we're going to fast forward ahead. Many of you have not been even in this building the whole time, but we have the timeline of every single thing we talked about, plus more that we put in the hallway out there, so you can look at that. We'd love for you to just kind of see the journey since we got in this building. But since we've gotten this building this past year, if we fast forward another year, and this past year, God gave you during prayer and fasting the more thing. And then you're going to talk about this coming 2018.
Yeah, it's been insane, and it's amazing how fast time goes, as we're able to tell this morning. But since in the last 5 years, we've had 5,367 people give their lives to Jesus, and 300 and
Yes, so good. And it proves we're not trying to build a church, we're trying to build the kingdom, because not everybody has stayed here. We help people find churches that are a better fit too.
Yeah, so I feel like this. I think one of the things that God really wanted when we came to this city was for us to raise the spiritual water table. And I want every church in this city to grow. And I want every family to have a relationship with Jesus. And so last year during prayer, I felt like God challenged me that there was more in me, more to me, more for me, and to stretch myself in a number of ways, to stretch my faith, to stretch how I am as a husband and as a father. And, as 2017 literally is wrapping up, and I've been fortunate enough to finish everything on the list of 10 things that I wanted to do in 2017, I felt like, well, there's got to be more than that. Like, it can't just be more for 1 year. Like, what do you do from that? And some of being around Bob Goff becomes infectious. And I felt like what God wanted for me and for us as a church is for us to dream again. For some people to dream for the first time, and to really, like when you're a kid, you have dreams. You have like these ideas, these crazy thoughts of things you're going to do. Like 2 out of every 3 kids in the world is going to be president someday. Every kid who ever touches a baseball is going to play major league. Every girl who gets a tutu is going to dance the lead in the Nutcracker someday. And somewhere along the line, that gets stolen from us. Life steals our dreams. And here's what really happens is the devil sneaks in and the devil robs us of our destiny. And sometimes we unlocked the door, and truth be told, sometimes we left the door wide open. We left the door wide open with bad choices that we made. Sometimes that door was kicked open by somebody else with bad choices that they made. But can I tell you, you're not the sum of who you are, you're the sum of what God wants you to be. And so as we're coming into 2018, the theme that we're going to have as a church for the next year, like I didn't realize that they said on the news, a bustling church of 1,500 people. Listen, in this building last Sunday, we had 2,700 people, not counting the people that we had online, not counting the people that we had in the 22 services at the Brown County Correctional Facility. And I'm telling you, I believe this beyond a shadow of a doubt. You say, well, why is it all about numbers? Because there's a reason why the Bible counted people. Because people matter. You matter. Your friends matter. Your family matters. Your coworkers matter. Your neighbors, they matter. Every person in the 920 matters. And I feel like it's by time that somebody comes into a city like Green Bay and an area like the 920 and says, it's time to dream again. You can start businesses. You can go back to school. Dream about having a good marriage and not going to bed angry at each other. Dream about having a good relationship with your kids. I mean, last night I was sitting around thinking about how in the world can I be a better father? How can I be a better dad to Aubrey and a better dad to Isaiah? Because they're going to be gone. Like, we've been here 5 years. In 5 years, my kids will be gone. These 5 years went like that. And one day I'm going to wake up and go, did I spend enough time with them? Did I give enough words to them? Did I give enough hugs to them? Like, if you're a dad in here, like, make 2018 the year of the hug. The year of the, like, whatever it may be. The year of the hug. The year of the positive comment. And so I'm telling you, like, I believe this beyond a shadow of a doubt. What God has done here in the last 5 years has only scratched the surface of what God wants to do. And so I want people to come up with what's the dream for your life, not just for 2018, but like what's the big dream, but start working on it now. Like I have a friend, he's going to start a recording company. And so he's going to have business cards and he's having the website and he's going to start introducing people as, hey, I'm so-and-so and I'm starting a record company. Like, what's the dream for your life? And so we've made some preparations.
And I can talk about that when we take the offering. I'll talk about the card that was on your chair. We'll talk about what to do with that. Take that. That's for you. But
yeah, but here's the thing. The biggest dream for my life for this year doesn't involve me. I've been dreaming my dream for the last 44 years. Here's my dream for you. My dream is that everyone in your family come to Jesus this year. Yes. My dream is that your husband who doesn't have a relationship with God will have a relationship with God, or your wife. My dream is that your family will be restored and that your family, my dream is for you. And so I thought, why don't we end this whole little walk down memory lane with a look toward the future? And so I'm just going to ask you to close your eyes if you're in here, because I wonder today if maybe you're here and if my dream for the people in this place is that everyone in your family would have a relationship with Jesus. Maybe you're here today and you don't have a relationship with Jesus. And so why don't we change that before we go? And why don't we start my dream for 2018 right here on December 31st, 2017? And so I wonder if you're here today and you say, Sean, I don't have a relationship with Jesus, but I'd like to before I leave here. You haven't been here for the last 5 years. You just got here today. But can I tell you, just because you haven't been here for the last 5 years doesn't mean you can't be here for the next. See, like when you have a relationship with Jesus, one of the coolest things is you get to spend forever together. We get to spend forever like having the greatest time ever, eating the greatest meals ever, laughing, joking, having fun. And I don't want to do that without you, because if I go there without you, I think I'll miss you. And so I don't want to miss you. I want you with me. So today, if you're here and you say, Sean, I don't have a relationship with Jesus, but I'd like to, I'm going to give you opportunity to change that. Here's how. In just a moment, I'm going to ask for people with every head bowed and every eye closed to do two things. First will be to raise your hand and make eye contact with me. Once you've made eye contact with me, you can put your hand down. Second, I'm going to ask you to repeat a prayer after me, along with everyone else in this place. So if you're here, you say, Sean, I don't have a relationship with Jesus as I end 2017, but I want to start 2018 with him. If that's you, would you raise your hand and make eye contact with me today? Thanks. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks. 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 Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks. I'm going to ask everyone in here to say these words after me. Say, Dear Jesus, I'm a sinner and I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Come into my life and change me. Make me new. Be my Lord. Be my Savior. In Jesus' name, amen.